What's the most bizarre rule you've had to follow in someone else's house? I lived in Russia with a Russian family and the rules were limitless and exhausting. Do not sit at the corner of the table if you are a young, unmarried woman like me, you will be pierced with corner energy and never have children. Do not forget to look in the mirror right before leaving the house, bad luck. You will be killed. Do not smoke anywhere, and do not leave the house with your long hair down and uncovered, you will be mistaken for a whore and shame the family. Do not sit anywhere in the house if you've just come in from outside, you will make the house filthy and we will become ill and die. But most of all, do not, under any circumstances, have anything at all to do with the floor, incoherent screaming. Don't put your bag on it. Don't drop your hat on it. And whatever you do, for God's sake don't sit on it. I made the mistake of sitting on the rug in the living room, once. This was 30 years ago, and I doubt the family has recovered. Russians, man. They have lots of rules and hate floors. In my own house. Never allowed to close a bedroom door. No secrets would be kept then, if all the bedroom doors were open. But I'm an only child. Why was this the rule? Because it was the rule in my mother's house where there were many children. Why couldn't they keep their doors closed ever? Because it was the rule in the convent/orphanage where my grandmother was raised. Then, when I had kids, at first, blindly, I imposed this rule. And I had to ask myself why my own kids, who have their own rooms and aren't sharing rooms with siblings, couldn't close their own doors? Because it was rule in the 1920s when my grandmother was growing up in an orphanage in another country. So I re-evaluated and my kids are allowed to close their doors and have. You're our house guest, but family dinners are for family only. Here's your plate, you can have your dinners this week in the basement. At my best friends growing up, middle H.S., if we wanted to go do something together like go to the lighthouse or visit the old sugar mill ruins, we had to write a research paper first. We would give our papers to my friend's mom and then she would decide if we could go or not. Kids not allowed to bring any books with anthropomorphic characters into the house. We could play with Legos for hours, but were banned from bringing a Richard Scarry Big Adventure book, or any material with talking animals, or animals wearing clothes. The mom didn't want her children growing up thinking that cats and dogs wore sweaters. I hated that house. When I was little, my friend's mom would not let us drink at the same time as eating because she said it was a choking hazard to mix liquid and solid. I was probably 9 or 10, a girl staying the day with my friend that was a boy. His dad came in and asked a question and I answered, yeah. Friend audibly sucked in a breath before his dad swung around and screamed, "How many times do I have to tell you?" The answer is, yes sir. There's literally no way it could have been mistaken for my friend's voice. I was terrified until my mom picked me up. My friend was super apologetic, but even then I knew it wasn't his fault so I tried to make him feel better about it. Not sure what happened to him but I can't imagine living in that level of terror every day of my childhood. No pooping on the floor. Which is a fine request but weird they had to call it out. When I was working as a student research assistant in Chicago, I stayed at this lady's house with 3 other roommates ranging in age from 20 to 50. She required all of us to wipe down the entire kitchen with bleach after every single use, no matter how small. There was this one time she told me her son was a doctor and had advised her to regularly drink water with a bit of bleach in it. It was very odd. I grow up with a lot of friends from Slavic background, mainly Russian and Ukrainian, and you are not allowed to whistle in the house because it upsets the house gnome. It was an unspoken rule, no eating. A few friends spent the night at a former friend's house when we were teenagers. She offered us a small bowl of macaroni and cheese at about 4 p.m. We thought it was an after-school snack, but that was it. Food wasn't mentioned again. My friends and I woke up in the middle of night, starving, so we went to the kitchen and the cabinets and refrigerator were locked. It was my house when my parents were still married. No closed doors. Bedroom, bathroom, closet, whatever. Only door fully closed with screen door going outside. Porch door, cracked at least 1 to 3 inches always, depending on weather. Taking a shower? Going number 2? Parents intimate? Door is cracked open. I caught several whooping as a youngster and later as 12 to 13-year-old for daring to close the door fully when in the bathroom. On rare occasion we actually had company over, rule enforced on them as well. Had a friend who kept plastic Ziploc bags on his SNES controllers. While playing. I stayed briefly with a friend whose mom didn't allow the toilets to be flushed more than once a day unless you'd actually dropped a deuce, who only had tiny night lights in each room for illumination, didn't believe in either heating or air conditioning, and stole playground sand from the park down the street to use in the cat box. She didn't have furniture, other than her bed. My friend and I slept on moving pads in a bedroom, with no blankets or pillows. I remember eating 2 cheese sandwiches a day, and by sandwiches, I mean one slice of knockoff Kraft cheese between 2 slices of the cheapest white bread possible. She drove a very expensive car, and according to my friend, worked a very high-paying job, and had no debt to speak of, thanks to all the child support she got from his dad after the divorce. After 2 days of this, we both slipped out in the middle of the night, because she wouldn't let us go anywhere during the day. I found some other friends to crash with, and my friend went to his dad's house in another state. I found out years later that she eventually became a complete shut-in and hoarder, due to some substantial mental issues she'd been dealing with even then. When she passed, her house was absolutely full of junk. Not me, but my mom had an aunt that would put down newspaper to walk on if you visited her house. She also gave her kids enemas every Sunday night so they would be clean for school. Visited my bestie's family farm for a week. Once you left the house you could not return until dinner time. You can chill in the old farmhouse or farm garage. When you return to the house they live in, you strip down in the garage, put on a robe and fresh socks. You can then enter the house, drop all your clothes in the washing machine and to go straight to the shower. After your shower the robe and socks go into the washer. Once inside and showered then you are in for the night. We were adults, not kids. This wasn't a livestock farm and nor did we work in the corn or soy fields. Edit, the mom has OCD. Her entire life is cleaning or mowing. It was never about bugs, as my friend hid this rule from me until we were in the garage. My old friend's mom had a room in her house that no one was allowed in. No significance to the room. It was the viewing room. Edit, this room was all white like the majority of people with similar experiences. Why were they always white? Had a babysitter/friend of my single dad that would babysit me every so often so he could have a night off. I would sleep over and there was always one night of the week where we had to sleep with our feet at the headboard. I was like 3 or 4 remembering how fucking weird of a rule that was, lol. My friend's mom was adamant that we were not to fold a slice of pizza to be able to pick it up and eat it. The pizza was to remain flat, as we were not gluttonous beasts. I visited a friend at a lake house for 2 weeks in the summer and no one was allowed to get up before their dad. This fucking guy would drink until 1 to 3 a.m. and not wake up till 11 a.m. and would throw a tantrum if anyone made noise before he was able to get up again and drag his ass back to the real world. My friend's mom strictly enforced this the entire time I was there too. The things you look back on from your kid years, man, that was just a hostage situation. My friend had very controlling parents. When I was 12, she finally let us go to her house to hang out. We would always go to other people's houses. She wasn't allowed to hang out with anyone at home. Even she wasn't allowed in the dining room. They had the room roped off, literally like a red carpet event. We have to go to the basement to hang out. There wasn't any furniture there. She said no one was allowed to eat in the house unless it was family dinner. Or one of the parents. So my friend snuck some cookies down. We had to eat over the sink. Then she scrambled to make sure there were no crumbs, and we had to help her clean up. A few minutes later her dad flipped out, yelling because he saw all our shoes by the front door, which we do here in Canada. He kicked us all out and she wasn't allowed to have any friends over ever again. Her dad was also obsessed with his lawn. No one was allowed to walk on it. Ever. One day someone drives all over it to spite him, I assume. And he comes banging on my door, accusing me of doing it. Because I was home and the tire marks were kinda pointing towards my house. I was 14, with no car, but sure, okay, accuse me. Wearing jeans meant the only place I could sit was on one of the kitchen island stools. Kitchen chairs, sofas or chairs around the house, or any beds were no bueno. Also no shoes inside, which was fine, but also had to remove socks, so walking on cold hard flooring was super annoying. They didn't like that I brought my own slippers the next time I visited. Avoid going there now as much as I can. You could watch TV, pretty much anything, except King of the Hill. His mom caught us watching it. It came on after The Simpsons, and her awful tone and angered look is something I will never forget. Honestly, great time otherwise. I remember being babysat as a very young child by my parents' friends, and while I was eating dinner I asked for some water and she sternly reprimanded me and said, "No, you can't have anything to drink until after you eat." My best friends had a girls' bathroom and a boys' bathroom. It was a 2-bath house. The boys' bathroom was in the parents' bedroom. I was there for a sleepover and had to pee in the middle of the night. I walked around for about 20 minutes trying to figure out what to do. I almost went outside, but I worried they had an alarm. I ended up peeing in my PJs. I hid them behind the toilet in the girls' bathroom. I still don't know why I just didn't pee in the girls' bath or wake up my buddies. It was weird. Back in the 80s, friend and I were around 7-ish. I went to her house for tea after school one day. I knew her family were a bit odd but had no idea what I was in for. First, I had to change out of my school uniform into a very old-fashioned dress that was way too long for me, and her mum quickly sewed up so I wouldn't trip. I also had to wear a pair of weird shoe/slipper things that were also too big. I wasn't allowed upstairs. Me, friend's mum and friend's younger brother, then played board games in the living room until her dad came home. They didn't have a TV. The kids had to sit on the floor whilst the dad read from a bizarre book, whilst the mum finished cooking dinner. Various rules around dinner about who gets what and in what order, saying prayers and other speeches. My family is so non-religious I didn't even know we were atheist, it just wasn't a thing. My mum came to pick me up, at which point she realized they were Jehovah's Witnesses. I never went back there and friend was never allowed to come to my house. I used to make her happy winter and happy name day cards once I understood a bit more about the restrictions. 40 years later and I can still remember the smell of their house. It was all really surreal. They moved away years before the internet and I often wonder what happened to her.